let me go ahead and introduce you to our next cocktail. And that is going to be with Jodi. And she's going to be bringing us a really fun cocktail herself. And you have the Rosemary Fitzgerald, if I'm right.
Yes.
All right. So let's go tell us about that, and we'll get going here.
Excellent. I'm Jodi Ohlsen Read from Shepherd's Way Farms in Minnesota. And today I'm going to be making a Rosemary Fitzgerald to go with our Friesago. Any bartenders or mixologists will be appalled at my methods, but we're going to go forward anyway. The Rosemary Fitzgerald I'm making it with Metropolitan, which is a gin from Loon Liquors that's about 10 miles from me. And this is an organic gin. It's very complex. They have 10 botanicals in this gin, so it has a lot of different layers. So we're going to use this as the foundation of our Rosemary Fitzgerald. I don't know where a fly came from in December, but so we're going to start out with 2 ounces of the gin. I'm never this precise on my own. I'm pretty sure I know what 2 ounces looks like without measuring. And then we're going to add some rosemary simple syrup that I made ahead of time. And it's just dried rosemary with sugar and water, and I think the recipe's attached to the glass here. Cook it until the sugar is melted, let it cool, strain it so you don't have all the little pieces of rosemary, and you can keep it in the fridge for quite a while. And yeah, I don't usually put quite this much simple syrup. I don't like mine as quite as sweet, but we're going to have 3/4 of an ounce of simple syrup and a little bit of lemon juice for the tart, 1/2 ounce. And then they have their own aromatic bitters. You can use bitters of your choice to give it a little more depth of flavor. I'm going to use a whole dropper here. And add some ice to my shaker. And this is one of my favorite sounds. I'm not as good as the bartender, but just shake it long enough until you kind of ice up the outside and you melt a little bit of water into your drink. Oops. And if I was a real bartender, I would strain this one more time, but I'm just going to use the strainer that's on the top. And you can really smell a lot of the botanicals, even without the rosemary garnish. We'll put a little sprig of rosemary in there for the garnish. And this is just it's nice and light, but all of the layers give it a depth and a richness that I really can't resist. And I've paired this with our Friesago, which is the first cheese that we ever made in 1998. It's all sheep milk with a natural rind. If you've been in the cheese world since 98 or 2000, yeah, I don't remember what date I switched it over, but if you've been around a while, you would remember Friesago being black wax, which was how we first made this cheese, because that was the fashion back then, and there weren't a lot of natural rinded cheeses, especially American cheeses at the time. But over the years, as consumers became more sophisticated in their cheese tastes, and as I became more experienced as a cheesemaker, I switched it over to a natural rinded cheese, which allowed it to develop a lot more interesting characteristics. So I paired these two together because the Friesago is a really approachable, fairly mild sheep milk cheese. It's grassy with a nutty finish, and at first taste it's very straightforward and almost simple, but as the flavor builds, it has a few more layers, and that's where the nuttiness comes in, and then the richness of the sheep milk comes through. And this one is aged about 6 months, so it's semi-hard. And with the cocktail, I paired these because they both bring out the best in each other, I think. I really like some of the different flavors in the gin. It's got kind of a black currant flavor, cardamom, a little bit of anise, a lot of citrus, and then the rosemary also is a flavor layer that's in the gin. And those two just together, they bring out different characteristics. So cheese tastes different by itself than it does with the cocktail. I've done a lot of research. And that's my goal, which isn't very complicated, but works really well for them not to overshadow each other or overwhelm each other, but to bring out the nuances in the flavors. And the balance, I feel like I know when the balance is right, it was when I want more of each of them together, one after the other. And I also like using our local gin. If you can't find Metropolitan liquors, I don't know how widely that they go at the moment. If you can't find it, I would look for another fairly complex gin that has a lot of aromatics and a floral note to it. They have a method of making their gin that's distillation and vapor infusion, which I don't know a lot about the process, but I think that that's not as common, but maybe, I don't know. So that is my cocktail cheese combination. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Wow, that was fabulous. I really enjoyed that. I think that the addition of having the rosemary, I use rosemary in the crackers or in the spreads, things like that, to really bring out the flavors of the cheese because it does so well. So I think that's really interesting to be able to add that into the cocktail, which should, give it a really nice additional flavor.
Yeah, it's really herbaceous and really balances with the creaminess and the nuttiness of the cheese. I like that together.
Good. Well, thank you. That was excellent. All right.